welcome to another Coffee with Colm, and thank you for joining me. I'm finding myself a little bit grumpy this week, a little bit out of sorts this week, and I'm trying to figure out why that is. And I thought I'd simply have a cup of coffee with you and explore perhaps some of the thoughts that are rattling around in my head. I'm a little bit bent out of shape about the people who come onto social media and tell me I'm a loser and tell you you're a loser because you and I are not busting our gut 24/7 towards some dream. Those type of people just annoy me. They're fanatics, and I hate fanatics. I'm an anti-fanatic. I hate anybody who wants to impose their will on me, that my way of looking at the world is wrong because theirs is the only way. I'm upset by that. Russia has decided that Ukraine isn't playing ball the way it wants it to play ball, so it has decided to come in and impose its will on an innocent group of people. And in social media land, too many people are out there telling you and I that their way is the only way. Religion, there's another one, telling us, you and I, their way is the only way. So I'm a little bit out of sorts, okay? I'm a little bit out of sorts. And I'm trying to figure out how do I cope with it, and I'm trying to figure out what do I do with it. So if you go with me here for a moment, if we accept that the universe is enormous and infinite, and that time itself is infinite, and therefore your time and my time on Earth is very much finite and is really insignificant in the scheme of things, makes not a jot of difference really in the scheme of things, well then why are we here at all? So I find myself asking sort of existential questions this week, and I just want to explore that, if I may, with you. Why are we here? I don't know. However, I believe we're here to make a difference. We're not here to make money. We're here to make a difference. If we make money along the way, great, depending on what we do with that money, right? But we're here to make a difference. We're here for 81 years. 81 is the average lifespan on this side of the world. And I've used this concept before, the 81 patchwork quilts. If you imagine that the week is the perfect patch in the fabric of life, which it is, 7 days, 24 hours, 168 hours in total. That's what 1 week looks like. If you imagine you cut your calendar up and stitch 52 of your weekly schedules together, you'd have a patchwork quilt equaling a year. And you've got 81 patchwork quilts gifted to you on average in this side of the world. So a couple of questions come to mind. How many have you discarded to date? And indeed, how many of those have you enjoyed to date? They could be very much be two different questions. How many of you discarded and how many have you enjoyed? And the next series of questions that come from that are, well, how many do you have left? Take your current age from 81. That's how many years you have left, how many patchwork quilts you're likely to have to enjoy. And the question that comes from that is, are you going to enjoy them? And that's your decision. That's your decision. Can you enjoy them? Yes, you can. But perhaps you need to start to look at the world differently. At the end of the day, someday, it will be the end of the day for you and I. We'll be shuffling off this mortal coil. And what will we have achieved? I do believe, however, our reason for being here is to live our lives in such a way as to advance humanity. I'll say that again. I believe we're here for those 81 years to contribute to the advancement of humanity. And if we do that, well, then the imprint of our tiny little lives will be felt after we've shuffled off this mortal coil. And if we do it properly, well, then other people may be positively impacted by the fact that we were here at all, and may take our work, whatever that is, and develop it further, again, for the benefit of humanity at large. So I'm encouraging you in this next week to consider that time when you're lying under your 81st patchwork quilt, what your life would need to look like when you get there for you to be looking back on the 81 patchwork quilts and saying, good job, well done. And don't let anybody tell you how to live your life. And don't let any idiot out there in social media land tell you that you're a loser because their lives are so screwed up that they need to accumulate to feel worthwhile. You don't need to accumulate to feel worthwhile. You need to serve to feel worthwhile. I'll say that one more time. You don't need to accumulate to feel worthwhile. You need to serve to feel worthwhile. And I would encourage you to use the remaining patchwork quilts to find a way to serve those around you. And in so doing, you will leave an imprint for this tiny amount of time that you will have spent on this tiny blue dot hurtling through space. So there you go. Now that I've got that off my chest, I feel a little less cranky. And thank you for joining me for this week's Coffee with Colm. I hope and trust as ever you got something from it. Please consider what's been shared here today and apply it into your thinking for this next week. And then very importantly, come back next week and we'll share another coffee together and a ruminate on some other aspect of life and business. Between now and then, get some great coffee for sure. Get some fresh air, get some R&R. If you spend too much time with people, I recommend you take some time out and get to know yourself a little. And if you spend too much time alone, I recommend you go out and meet some people. And then when the time is right, and only when the time is right, get your head back in the game, get organized for the week ahead, get stuck in, make next week count, not in a fanatical way. Win the week, win the war. Do something positive next week. And I'll see you here this time next week for another Coffee with Colm. Thanks a lot. I love great coffee. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye for now.